Welcome to The New Health. I'm your host, Jessica Preston, where we speak with thought leaders in healthcare who are revolutionizing the healthcare industry and making a new healthcare model that is sustainable and healthy for you. Today we have back with us James Maskell. Welcome back, James.
Great to be here with you, Jessica. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you, always. Please keep coming back. So today I'd love to talk about this old healthcare model about we go into the doctor, we say what's wrong with us, the doctor gives a prescription, and then we go home from there, and how that is the older method, why that isn't working anymore, what's the new method?
Yeah, well, as I've mentioned before, I think that method worked very well for acute disease, but for lifestyle-driven chronic disease, it's clearly not working. And there was the thing that really crystallized this for me was a 2015 in Nature, which is one of the biggest medical journals, called In Precision Medicine. And what it showed is that when you actually look at the real statistics, a lot of what you think you're seeing in the world is actually just pharmaceutical marketing, because in America that's allowed on TV and it's just so pervasive you don't even think about it. But if you look at a statistic called number needed to treat, NNT, what that is essentially saying is for every person that takes a drug, for every person that drug works for, how many other people take that drug and it doesn't work for them. And if you look at this graphic, you'll see that these are the top 10 grossing drugs in America. So the top $10 that are spent on drugs. So you can see Abilify, Nexium, Humira, Crestor, drugs that if you're watching this, you're probably familiar with. For every one person that it works for, it doesn't work for between 3 and 24 people. So what this is basically showing you is that for most people, the drugs aren't working most of the time. So if you've ever been to the doctor and they've given you a drug and it hasn't worked, that's normal. That's what this system does. The only reason why you're doing drugs first is because it's advertised on TV and because doctors' education is paid for by pharmaceutical companies. I mean, that's it. There's no reason why the first line of therapy should be medication. Really no reason at all. It's just that that's the system that we have. And part of the reason why we need community is because it takes community to really break out of that paradigm and to be part of it. And so this is, that really crystallized for me that I guess the other question is, well, what would happen if we did the community cure as the first line therapy? And even doctors here in Houston have been, working on that and seeing, and also doctors across the country starting to see if I put lifestyle first and I put lifestyle in groups first, you see that in those sort of situations, 60, 70, 80% of people have a dramatic improvement in their health in a pretty short period of time. And so from a health economist point of view, and also from a human point of view, and also from a father point of view, and also from just someone who cares about our common humanity and unnecessary suffering, it's extremely reasonable to me that the first thing that we should all be doing is aggressively going after the lifestyle factors that have made us sick, and it's the quickest and most obvious and most cost-effective and most life-affirming way back.
I think this is great, and I think that for a lot of us that were trained in medicine, for example, when it comes to high cholesterol, the first thing we should do is actually change your diet and do that for a number of months before we prescribe a medicine, and that seems to have gotten lost somewhere in the system.
It's got lost, yeah, and it's not easy, right? It's easier to take the pill, right? But it's actually a lot more effective to do the lifestyle first. And part of the reason why I wrote in the community cure is because it's a lot easier when you do it in a group, and it's a lot easier when you do it with someone else. My mother-in-law, she was part of a group called Overeaters Anonymous. And really all you do in that group is you check in with essentially like a sponsor every morning to say, or at the end of every day, say what you ate that day. It's pretty simple, right? So it could be like a 1-minute phone call. And my mother in that process lost over 100 pounds. Wow. And it was really because the idea of having to speak to someone that she cared about, that she built trust with, and having to say, I lost it. I went to the McDonald's drive-thru and I had 6 McFlurries. Mm-hmm. Like she was so motivated to not have to do that, whether that be whatever emotions were motivating that, and that was led to a dramatic effect. So that's just one simple example of someone who's not even that connected as that sponsor. And the valuable thing is that that's valuable for her, but it's also valuable for that other person, for the other sponsor. So I think that's really really interesting.
I think that's great. It's that accountability partner. So we have that for exercise, we can have that for nutrition groups. I'm in a group where we're saying, okay, we're all going to do a certain nutrition plan starting on this day.
Yeah.
We're actually all going to get CGMs at this point, continuous glucose monitors, to just see where things are so we can learn more about what's more healthful for us. And we have a little group like that. So the other part I think it's really important to know and remember is, even when we're in these groups and we can still have those feelings where we might want that 6 McFlurries, and that feeling might not go away, and it's okay to accept that we might not feel great in that space, but when we have someone who accepts us and we're an accountability partner in that way, that is truly accepting who we are, it allows us to be more peaceful and relaxed and calm.
All healthy things, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it's really healthy and valuable, and it's really about finding, that person. I think, one of the things that comes up when I talk about group and sharing medical information, with other people are very concerned about privacy, right? That's something that comes up a lot. As soon as I mention the idea of a group medical visit where groups of people with the same condition meet together and work out their disease together, that's the first thing that certainly doctors think about, right? Because they're responsible for the privacy of their patient's information, right. And then also that it's just been hardwired into us, almost actually hardwired into us, similar to do pharmaceuticals, right? Privacy and and don't talk about your medical condition and so forth. And I feel we lose so much once you've experienced the ability to speak to someone else, to hear that things are hard for them too, and hear some of the ways that they've overcome some of the similar challenges. It's really transformational, and I wish that for you. I wish that you could experience what it's like to have someone who is not just in sympathy with you that life is hard, but in empathy for you, that sees that you are capable and that you are capable of overcoming this and that we can overcome it together. That is such a joy. And I would say that when I've been in those rooms and when I've experienced that, you could almost feel a huge exhale from people who have had all of this fear and anxiety and pain and grief and sadness stored up in them and have had no place to let that out. And then they hear someone say, hey, my life has been like this too, and I've dealt with this and this is how I come with it. And it's almost sort of a relaxation, wow, I'm not alone in this struggle. And if you've never experienced that, I would highly recommend finding a way to do that. And it will take, finding something and creating some safety and finding a situation that deserves, that sort of trust. But the feeling of that is really powerful.
And watching that, as I can say from the provider standpoint, watching patients and community, even the levity of, we have a nutrition group in one of ours where it's their communication with each other, and it's, how are you doing this week? I'm starving. And everybody laughs, right? I mean, it's I'm starving. We're oh. So as the clinician in that space, it's, I need to make sure you're eating appropriately and getting enough so you're feeling full and everything. But the levity there was great between the community of patients. So it's a beautiful experience, I think, on both sides.
Yeah, it's one thing to have the internal motivation and ability and trigger to make the initial change, right? That's how change happens. But then to sustain that change over time and to actually have that accountability over time and support over time. It's funny you mentioned accountability partner in one of the businesses that I've been pioneering for the last few years, where we've been doing this group medicine together. At the beginning I was okay, we'll all have accountability partners and this will be great. And I just realized people don't have a great relationship with accountability, but we just actually changed the name to Progress Partner and people loved it.
Oh,
so it was
nice.
It was such a funny tweak where when we said, hey, you're all going to get introduced to your accountability partner, we could see in the data the percentage of people that would actually start a conversation inside the software with, their accountability partner was at this level, and then we changed it to Progress Partner, and it was an exponential shift up because everyone wants to progress, right? And if it's framed in that way, it's the same thing. It's the same process, just people talking to each other about how they're doing. But the Progress Partner lingo seemed to open up for most people something where I don't want to voluntarily have accountability to some other person, but I do want to make progress in my health.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Words matter, semantics matter,
Yeah,
you
it
know, the
does.
way what we choose, and
For
that's
sure.
I love the progress partner. That's I might take that.
Yeah, you should.
That's wonderful. Maybe we should be all taking that. Take that at home, because even accountability to our partner at home, accountability to our spouse, accountability to our children, progress sounds so much better. I like
Yeah.
that in all aspects.
Yeah, who's your progress partner?
Yeah.
And I think that could be a great gift for everyone. If you're at home, think about, who do you trust enough to be your progress partner, to go out to say to them, look, I want to make some progression in my health. Can you support me in the choices that I'm making? How can I support you? One conversation like that with someone that you already trust could be the difference between having the support that you need for the rest of your life versus, just being in a soup of toxic food, toxic air, toxic water, toxic relationships that are all, driving you towards chronic disease. Something like that can be extremely freeing.
And it sounds like also it's a way to ask for help without being so vulnerable and asking for help. Hey, would you be my progress partner?
Yeah.
Is a way of asking for help without saying help me in a way that might make you not feel good about yourself, especially on the beginning of a journey.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really impactful. So if we were to give one piece of advice to our listening audience, what would you give them on this day from this?
Yeah, I would say the first thing we all have to come to an understanding is that a lot of what we think about as culture around us is marketing. Right, and I know that can be hard to realize. I certainly found out about that. I remember the first time when I realized that, like, why do you give your wife a diamond ring, right? Why is that part of our culture? And it's marketing from the De Beers Diamond Company. And as soon as you realize that, you can take a step back and say, what else of this is marketing that I think is inherent to my culture, but is marketing? And so many things around health are marketing. And so my number one thing is that if you are dealing with a chronic symptom, something that's come up for a long time, that there is no way out of that through medication. There is a way to manage that over time with some medications can do that, but there is no way out of that with medication. The only way back is to rebuild function towards, to a healthy function. And so, ultimately, my hope is that you can find a structure whereby you can rebuild function and maybe a progress partner is right for you.
Thank you so much for that. So, James, thank you again for being with us here today. Can you please let our audience know how they can find you?
Yeah, you can check out my website is jamesmaskell.com. So it has a list of all my different projects on there, my books, and some of the things that I'm up to. And then if you go to Mr. James Maskell on Instagram, that's where you can find what I'm up to in real time.
Thank you so much. So James will be back with us again next week, so you can hear more about his work and how he's changing the world with health and wellness. Please stay tuned after these messages for our next guest.